Welcome. This is the last lesson. After this lesson, you should be able to play a good game of miniatures and either be familiar with the abilities on the cards or know how to understand the ones you've not seen before. Thank you guys so much for volunteering to do this and for putting up with my rather terrible sounding voice and my not always well thought out presentations. So that being said, the last lesson is on advanced movement, and this whiteboard's pretty empty. These demonstrations here are going to be more by example rather than by text on a board. So let's get to it. Do you guys remember way back in lesson 1 when I told you a miniature can do one of three things on its turn? It can move up to 6 squares and then attack, it can attack and move up to 6 squares, or move up to 12 squares without attacking. Now I must amend that list severely, because there's two things I need to add to it, and that's not counting things like double attack or triple attack or anything. There's two things to add to that. For one thing, you guys know, there are abilities that replace entire turns. So you could do that on your turn. Also, this question of movement, because not all miniatures can move 6 squares or 12 squares on their turns. Some can move faster and do more squares, or some slower, less squares. So why did I tell you guys 6 squares? Because 6 squares is the default speed for a miniature. But what happens when you get one of these beauties right here? Some of you may actually know what this is. It's from the Force Unleashed video game. It attacked Starkiller, a few of these did actually, when he was on Raxus Prime looking for Kazan Paratus. So what happens when you get this thing, and it's obviously pretty big, on the actual game board it takes up 9 spaces. It has a speed of 8. So what does that mean? So instead of moving 6 squares on its turn and attacking, or 6 squares after attacking, or 12 squares with no attacking, he replaces any instance of 6 with 8, and any instance of 8 with 16. So he could move up to its speed of 8 and then attack, or up to its speed of 8 after attacking, or move up to double its speed of 16 without making an attack at all. Some people have a smaller speed. For example, the Force Spirit of Anakin Skywalker has speed of 4. It can only move 4 squares. Well, actually, no. You have to figure Force Spirits cannot attack, so the only option for those things is to move 8 squares, up to 8 squares anyway, on their turns. But this thing's got a lot more options. It can move more squares if it wants to, or it can stick with moving less if it needs to just get up to an enemy that's, say, 2 squares away. It can only move 2 squares. So here's the actual Junk Golem. It's peering down at Lobot, and as you can see, he's next to this door, so presuming he's been there since the last turn, the door is now open. And he wants to get to Lobot. Problem being, he has melee attack, and Lobot's a small distance away, and you see this gap in the door is only 2 squares wide. This Junk Golem is 3 squares wide and 3 squares long. He's a huge miniature. So the question is, can he squeeze through that gap? And the answer is actually yes. That is the next kind of advanced movement. It is called, well, squeezing. Squeezing comes into play when a big miniature wants to squeeze between walls that are too small for it. A big miniature like the Junk Golem can squeeze through a space that is half of its size, if necessary. So he's 3 squares wide, right? So 1/2 of 3 is 1.5. So you round up in this case to 2. So this Junk Golem can squeeze through a space that is 2 squares wide. However, there's a rule about that. He can only squeeze through walls. So you can't squeeze if there's walls on one side of you and a pit on the other one. You don't squeeze past the pit. You squeeze past the wall. You don't squeeze past characters. You squeeze past walls or doors, but really, if you're next to a door, it is probably open as it is. But you squeeze past walls or doors, and that's it. Also, this Junk Golem cannot end its turn while squeezing. If he wants to move, if he's going to squeeze, he can do that, but if he's going to end his turn in a space, the space has to be big enough to accommodate him. So he can't end right here, where the wall on the left side is still prohibiting him. He'd have to end his turn, say here. We see he has enough space. It's a 3x3 space. Now here, it's perfect. He's moved less than his speed, so we can attack Lobot still and hopefully kill him. Although he only has 20 damage and Lobot has 30 hit points. So it might take more than one attack to do him in. But he's right next to Lobot, and Lobot really can't go anywhere. And actually, this is perfect because this can help me cover a rule that I missed earlier. What would prevent Lobot from simply moving out of the Junk Golem's way? on his turn, why can't Lobot just do this and go toward this door? Besides the fact that there's enemies waiting right outside it. The answer is attacks of opportunity. It's a rule I don't think I ever covered, so let's cover it now. So, when a miniature is moving, if he would move right next to an enemy miniature and then move out of that space, then he provokes an attack of opportunity. So basically, if you move into a space that is threatened by an enemy miniature, so right adjacent to a miniature, and then try and move out of that space, that miniature has the option to do an attack of opportunity. It's just a straight up attack. You can't use an ability that replaces attacks, and there's no careful shot or deadeye involved, and you can't take multiple attacks with, say, double attack, twin attack, etc. One attack. So if Lobot on his turn tries to move it all from that space, the junk golem gets an attack of opportunity, even if Lobot stays in a space threatened by the golem. If he's in a space that the golem can attack, and then he moves out of that space, the golem gets an attack of opportunity. And I should add here, for ranged attack, it's the same rules. Well, no, it's not the same rules at all. It kinda is. So with ranged attacks, say someone with a blaster, it has to be an adjacent square still. This space isn't necessarily threatened by Thrawn. I mean, it technically is, because Thrawn his blaster can shoot him, but it simply means fighting space, meaning the spaces around Thrawn are the spaces that would provoke an attack of opportunity. An attack of opportunity if Lobot moves out of them. Sorry, I'm slurring. I'm not meaning to, I'm sorry. So if he were to try and move out of this space, Thrawn could attack him. If he tries to move out of this space, he's not adjacent to Thrawn, so Thrawn can't attack him. So the last form of advanced movement is something I hinted at 2 lessons ago, was mobile attack. And mobile attack is quite simple. Wedge Antilles, Red 2, can move both before and after attacking. But I want to make the note here. This does not mean he can move 6 squares, attack, and then move 6 more squares. It means he splits up his move. He has a speed of 6, that's the default speed, so he could say, move 2 squares, attack an enemy, and then move up to 4 squares. He could move 5 squares, attack an enemy, and move 1 square. He can split up his speed between moving before his turn, his attack, and after attacking. And then you get greater mobile attack, which means that he moves before and after attacking like normal. This character can make extra attacks even if he moves this turn, but must make them all before resuming movement. What does that mean? So this Mando Scout has double attack. On his turn, he can make 1 extra attack instead of moving. But what this is saying is he could, say, move 3 squares, then make 2 attacks with double attack even though he's moved, and then move his other 3 squares. That's probably why he's worth 19 points, is that this guy can move and still do his double attack, and then move again. That's the wild part, is that that's what mobile attack, ordinary mobile attack, won't give him. Obviously, he doesn't have double attack, but if you have double attack or triple attack, or even quadruple attack, and you get greater mobile attack, you can move part of your speed, then do all of your attacks, your extra attacks, and then move the rest of your speed. But note, you have to do all of those extra attacks before you move again. He can't move 3, attack, then move 3 and attack. He has to move part of his speed, attack twice, and then move the rest of his speed. So really, that's it on advanced movement. This should be everything you guys need to know to play miniatures. Thank you so much for participating, and I can't wait to see you at the SW, Lord willing. Bye.